Good morning. Good to see you. Today, this fireside chat is going to be on the energies of December 8th through the 14th. I want to take you through the major transits of the week, and then we'll get into a tarot reading to kind of talk about what's lurking in the subconscious, what's our guidance, and how we work with the energy to be successful this upcoming week. So I invite you to find a place where you can be undisturbed for the next 45 minutes, and together we'll explore the energy of the upcoming week. Let's start off with Monday. Monday, we have an interesting transit that I'd like to discuss that I think is going to be pretty potent for us. We have the Mars squaring Saturn. Mars will be at 26 degrees of Sagittarius, squaring Saturn at 26 degrees of Pisces. Mars is our drive and our action and our courage and willpower, and Saturn is the disciplinarian. It sets limits, it reminds us of our responsibilities and sets a much-needed reality check this week. What does this mean for us? Well, it's a friction point where our desire to take action meets real-world limitations. It's like hitting a wall when you're trying to move forward. Patience is really essential this week. You might feel even frustrated or hit a delay, but this is about making sure our efforts are built on solid ground rather than impulse. The warrior is now meeting the wise teacher. On Tuesday, December 10th, Mercury opposes Uranus. So Mercury will be at 30 degrees of Scorpio, opposing Uranus at 30 degrees of Taurus. Mercury is how we communicate. It's how we think, how we make decisions, how we process information. And Uranus is the planet of breakthroughs, of rebellion, of sudden change and innovation. What does this mean for us? Well, we can expect some unexpected news, a mental lightning bolt, some sudden insights. Our mind is going to be moving pretty quickly, and thoughts are going to arrive faster than we can process them. This is breakthrough energy, but it's also scattered nervous energy. So I wouldn't make any major decisions today. I'd stay open to innovative ideas, revolutionary ideas, and be willing to completely change how we've been thinking about something. On Wednesday, December 11th, Mercury enters Sag. Mercury trines Neptune as well at 30 degrees of Scorpio, 0 degrees of Sag, trining Neptune at 30 degrees of Pisces. We talked about Mercury, so we understand what Mercury represents, but Neptune is our dreams and our spirituality, our intuition, our creativity, our compassion. And Pisces will be at 30 degrees. Neptune will be at 30 degrees of Pisces, I meant to say. And what does this mean for us? Well, this is the most spiritually potent day of the week. So our intuition is going to be crystal clear. We might receive creative downloads pretty effortlessly, and we'll be able to access some pretty deep wisdom. This is great for artistic work, for healing conversations, for writing, and any spiritual practice, because the veil between the conscious and the subconscious is rather thin. Trust what comes through you today. On Saturday, this December 14th, Mars is going to square Neptune. Mars will be at 30 degrees of Sagittarius, squaring Neptune at 30 degrees of Pisces. There's a sapient symbol that I want to share for this particular day. Sagittarius at 30 degrees, the symbol for that is the Pope's blessing the faithful. So that calls to mind some sort of spiritual authority, blessing, and guidance. And then Pisces at 30 degrees, the symbol for that is the great stone face. When I think of a stone face, I think of something that's permanent, something that's etched in, that becomes a component or a feature of what the entire thing is. We don't expect that to change. So Pisces at 30 degrees is our embodied character. It's actually living our truth. It's a part of who we are now. What does this mean for us? Well, our energy could feel drained, scattered, or misdirected. And it's hard to know what's real, Neptune versus what's fantasy. And I would avoid making major moves today. I would wait for the clarity to come. Spiritually, you might feel tired, feeling like we're pushing through a fog or questioning if we're on the right path or not. But there's a gift here. If we can surrender control and trust divine timing, this really dissolves the need to force outcomes. So we want to let inspiration guide our actions instead of the ego. What's the theme for this week? Well, the theme is balance. You're being asked to balance bold action with spiritual surrender, revolutionary thinking with patience, and idealism with practical reality. The most powerful day is December 11th, when Mercury and Neptune harmonize in that trine. I'd invite you to capture every insight that comes through. This week, there is a lesson here, and that lesson is surrender. It's teaching us that divine timing is always going to outperform desperate effort. So when we hit that wall on Monday, which we will, it's not because you're not strong enough or not trying hard enough or not worthy enough. It's because we're being stopped so we can receive better information before we make a move. The real lesson is in the pattern of the week itself. Monday's friction leads to Wednesday's clarity, which invites us to surrender on Saturday. We're learning to recognize the difference between scattered action that's driven by fear of failure, that forcing, that pushing, trying to make it all happen, and inspired action that's guided by intuition. So that flowing, trusting, allowing it to unfold. For our sensitive nature, it's teaching us that confusion and obstacles are not signs that we're doing it wrong. They're actually the environment that transformation requires. The frustration you feel when things don't move forward is not punishment. It's the universe telling us, stop, listen. There's something that we need to understand first. Wednesday's Mercury-Neptune trine is the proof that when we stop forcing and start feeling, the answer arrives with such clarity that you wonder why you were even confused in the first place. And then by Saturday, when Mars squares Neptune and you feel that spiritual exhaustion, you'll finally understand that you were never meant to push this hard. You were meant to trust this deeply. Here's some questions to ask this week. And I invite you to jot these down or come back to this podcast each day of the week to figure out what to ponder on, what to allow to ruminate, what to sit in your psyche that helps you figure out how to work with this energy and what the energy is teaching us. On Monday, when we hit the wall, I want you to ask yourself, what are you trying to force that keeps meeting resistance? Is this obstacle protecting you from building something on the wrong foundation? What fear is driving your urgency right now? And importantly, where am I confusing working harder with working aligned? For Tuesday, when the lightning strikes, I want you to ask yourself, what belief are you finally ready to let go of? What truth have you been dancing around that's ready to be spoken out loud? And where has your overthinking been blocking a simple, revolutionary solution? On Saturday, when the clarity arrives, I want you to start thinking, what is your intuition telling you that your logical mind keeps dismissing? What vision for your life feels true, even though you can't explain why? If your soul could speak directly to you right now, what would it say? On Saturday, when we're exhausted, I want you to ask yourself, what am I still trying to control that's ready to be surrendered? Where have I been pushing where I should have been praying? What outcome am I attached to that's blocking something better from arriving? How can I rest while still honoring my purpose? What does inspired action feel like in my body versus fear-driven action? Essentially, we're trying to understand if we're running toward our dreams or running away from fear of failure, and what it would feel like to trust even when you can't see it. And what's possible when we stop performing progress and start honoring the process. And what are we being prepared for that requires us to slow down first? The question that will change everything is, what if everything that didn't work out this week worked out perfectly? Because Wednesday's download is exactly what I needed before taking my next step. I'd like to invite you to join me in a tarot reading. This tarot reading is going to illuminate what these obstacles are, and also what is the major motion for the week, and also what guidance can we take to help us navigate these changes with grace. So as I shuffle, I am going to pull some cards to get the core motion for the week. Oh, there we go. We've got 2 cards that fell out. The Chariot in reverse and the Queen of Wands in reverse. And now I'm going to pull for the subconscious, and usually I take those from the back of the deck. And we've got the 5 of Pentacles, the 2 of Cups in reverse, and the World in reverse. And then I will shuffle for our guidance card. There we go. Page of Pentacles upright. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. This spread is the complete alignment with the transits that we just talked about. Let's start off with our core motion. I'll put the subconscious cards along the side, and we'll start with our core motion for the week. We've got the Chariot in reverse. So the Chariot in reverse speaks to a misaligned action in some way. It's telling me that we can't move forward with clarity until we deal with the internal conflict first. Something is out of whack here. It's either we have opposing desires, there's a fear here, or our priorities are out of place. Something is pulling us in 2 completely different directions. One horse wants security, the other wants adventure. One wants to rest, and the other feels guilty for not producing. One believes in divine timing, and the other is terrified that you're falling behind. That wall that we hit on Monday, that's the Chariot literally unable to move because the horses are fighting each other. We're not blocked. We're being shown that trying to force movement while we're internally divided is only going to exhaust us. This reversal is giving us a gift. It's the permission to stop performing progress, because we don't need to have it all figured out or be moving at full speed right now. It's revealing where we're hedging our bets instead of committing to one aligned direction. It's showing where we're trying to control the outcome instead of steering or leading with intention and surrendering the timeline. And it validates that scattered, overwhelmed feeling. Yes, you are being pulled in too many directions. And that's valuable information. How do we work with the Chariot this week in reverse? Well, instead of trying harder to make the horses cooperate, we're invited to pause and ask them what they each need. What's the fear? What's the desire? And what would alignment actually feel like? The Mercury-Neptune trine on Wednesday is when we're going to get that answer. The vision that makes both horses turn in the same direction naturally without force. The reversal is saying you're not failing at moving forward, but you're being asked to get clear on where you actually need to go. So in short, stop beating up the horses and start listening to them. Wednesday is going to show you the path they've been trying to tell you about all along. Let's move on to the Queen of Wands in reverse. This card shows up when our inner fire feels distant. Somehow we've lost touch with our natural confidence. Not because they're gone. There's just doubt here, second guessing. And we're letting fear dim that vibrant energy that usually radiates from us. This is the card of burnout. And we're burned out because we're overperforming confidence instead of resting in genuine self-trust. This could show up as comparison energy, comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we're not enough, overthinking every decision until your natural intuition feels stifled, scattering our energy across too many projects because we're afraid of choosing wrong. I'm guilty of that. Or feeling jealous or insecure, like everyone has got it figured out except us. And withdrawing instead of shining because being vulnerable feels too risky right now. How does this connect to the week's energy? Well, the Mars-Saturn square on Monday is showing us where we've been forcing this fiery action from an empty well. And we know we can't manifest from a place of depletion. Tuesday's Mercury-Uranus opposition could trigger the overthinking that's been suffocating our instincts. But it's also offering up the breakthrough. It's asking, what if you stopped performing and just were yourself? Wednesday's Mercury-Neptune trine is our reconnection point. That's when we'll start to feel that inner flame come back to life. Not through doing more, but through remembering who you are beneath all the self-doubt. On Saturday, the Mars-Neptune square reveals the exhaustion of trying to be charismatic and confident when we're running on fumes. The Queen of Wands is asking a couple questions. It's asking us, where have we abandoned our own creative vision to chase what looks successful from the outside? Like, whose rules are we playing by? When do we stop trusting our instincts and start overthinking every move? What would change if you let yourself be messy, authentically messy, instead of perfectly polished? How to work with this reversal? Let's go into that. Because this isn't about becoming more. It's about removing what's covering our natural radiance. The Queen of Wands is telling us that we haven't lost the fire. It's just buried under self-doubt and the exhausting performance of being who you think you should be. On Wednesday, when Mercury trines Neptune, you're going to get this vision of yourself that bypasses all that noise. You'll start remembering your true essence, the version of you that doesn't need to prove anything because you simply are. So stop asking what you should do and start asking, what do I actually want? Notice when you're performing enthusiasm versus feeling genuine excitement. And give yourself permission to rest without producing a goddamn thing. The reversal is teaching us that we're forcing ourselves to burn in ways that aren't natural to us. We don't need to be loud, but we need to be true. By the end of this week, you're going to understand that your magnetism was never in the performance. It was always in the permission you give yourself to be unapologetically you. Now, let's get into the fears. What's blocking us? I pulled 3 cards there the Five of Pentacles upright, the Two of Cups in reverse, and the World in reverse. And then we have one card that's reading to me like guidance, and that's the Page of Pentacles. So I put that aside for us to continue, for us to explore last. Let's get to the Five of Pentacles. This is the card here in the traditional Rider-Waite deck. It shows this lit up church, and there's a couple of people kind of huddled together outside the church in the cold. There's snow on the ground, they're cold, they're kind of have their shoulders hunched up, and they look really downtrodden and just in a bad way. The card is interesting to me because what if the door to the church was not locked? I think about that all the time. Like, the people outside feel isolated, like they have nowhere to go. But what if that church door was unlocked? Spirit is telling us that the help is there. We just can't see it because we're focused on the struggle, on the storm. The Five of Pentacles is validating that we feel spiritually and emotionally depleted right now, right? Like, we're on the outside looking in while everybody already has it figured out. There's this deep sense of, why is this so hard for me when it's easy for everybody else? Because it's a Pentacles card, it's earth energy, right? It's something that's tangible. So this could be financial struggle, a creative struggle, or something that's happening emotionally, feeling like you have to do it all alone. This is a paradox because the isolation is real, but it's also an illusion. Support exists, but you can't see it from where you're standing. This card is about learning to ask for help and recognizing support in unexpected places. On Monday, when Mars squares Saturn, it could be showing you where you pride, where there's fear or shame that has kept you from reaching out. And on Wednesday, when Mercury makes a trine to Neptune, I think that's where you'll finally see that open door that you've been walking past. For you specifically, your sensitivity means you feel the cold more intensely than others. But it also means you'll feel the warmth more deeply when you finally let yourself step inside. The Two of Cups in reverse. That is a card of disconnection. There's some sort of misalignment in a partnership with another person, a project, or creative collaboration, or with yourself. Something's not flowing. The connection feels forced. You're out of sync. You're trying to make something work that isn't in energetic alignment, and there's a lack of reciprocity. You're either giving more than you're receiving, or something about the exchange feels unbalanced. You're trying to force connection where natural flow doesn't exist. How does this even connect to our core emotion for the week, right? The Chariot and the Queen of Wands. Well, that's the why behind why we're divided. You're trying to partner with people, projects, or versions of yourself that aren't truly aligned anymore. And your soul is tired from pretending the connection is there when it's not. On Tuesday, when Mercury makes an opposition to Uranus, you'll get that breakthrough. You'll see which partnerships, including the ones that we have with ourselves, are based on genuine soul alignment versus fear, loneliness, or shoulds. I want you to ask yourself, where have you been abandoning your own needs to make a connection that's already broken stick? What partnership have you outgrown but are too afraid to release? Am I trying to connect from a place of scarcity instead of wholeness? Let's consider our second to last card. That's the World reversed. And that, the World is a card of cycles. But when I see it in the reverse position, it tells me the cycle is incomplete. You're close, but you can't quite get there yet. Something is holding you back from stepping through the threshold. You're at the end of a major cycle, my friends, but you're resisting the closure because you're afraid of what comes next. There's something that's unfinished. And you're stalling at the finish line because completion means facing the unknown. And part of you wants to stay in the familiar struggle rather than stepping into new territory. We have to integrate the lessons. The world in reverse tells me you've done the work. Now you need to receive the transformation. Here's how that ties into everything we've discussed so far. The Five of Pentacles says, hey, I feel left out. I feel like I'm stuck in the cold because I'm standing at a threshold that I'm afraid to cross. The Two of Cups reverse says, I'm disconnected because I'm clinging to an old version of myself or a relationship that the completed cycle would release. The Queen of Wands reverse says, our fire is dim because we're exhausted from resisting our own evolution. And the Chariot reverse says, our horses are going in different directions because one wants to finish the journey and the other is terrified to arrive. On Wednesday, when Mercury and Neptune make that trine, you'll finally allow that transformation to complete. And on Saturday, when Mars and Neptune square, the exhaustion that you feel from fighting the inevitable ending, instead of surrendering to the beautiful unknown, will hit. What do these three cards together mean? Well, if I can put it simply in one message, it's saying that you're standing outside in the cold, you're disconnected from yourself and others, you're unable to complete a major life cycle, but not because you're broken, but because you're scared to step into the door, into the warmth of your next chapter. This is a pattern. I see that you feel isolated and struggling because you're forcing connections that aren't aligned. And you're doing that because you're afraid to complete the transformation that would show you who you really are and what you actually need. The ultimate message is that you're not failing at moving forward. You're standing at the most sacred moment in any journey, the moment right before you arrive, when you have to choose to cross the threshold into who you're becoming. That cold, that disconnection, the incompletion, it's all the final resistance before rebirth. And Wednesday is going to show you that the door has been open the whole time. The warmth has been waiting. The cycle is ready to complete. And the version of you on the other side, she's already been calling you home. You just have to be brave enough to step inside. Now comes the time for our guidance. So I'll pull the Page of Pentacles card forward. And the imagery on this card is a person holding a pentacle in their right hand and a baby lamb in their left. There's a youthfulness about the page. And that's because the page is the eternal beginner. Always curious, humble, dedicated, willing to learn. The Page of Pentacles shows up in readings when it's time to approach something with beginner's mind, with fresh eyes, and a grounded practicality. No grand gestures, no show, no forcing completion, just one small, tangible step forward. It's interesting because the Page of Pentacles answers all of our other cards. Let me show you how. So the Five of Pentacles that we pulled in the subconscious, right, talks about feeling left out in the cold. The page is saying, stop waiting for the whole solution. Take one small action, one small step towards warmth. Text a friend. Apply for the thing. Start the 5-minute daily practice. Because small steps open really big doors. It answers the Two of Cups in reverse, right? The page is saying that reconnection starts with showing up for ourselves in one small, consistent way. So make a meal this week. Take a walk. Journal for 10 minutes. We have to rebuild that partnership with ourselves. And we do that through daily devotion, not dramatic transformation. It answers the world in reverse as well, right? Which speaks to that incomplete cycle, being afraid to finish. The page is saying you don't have to complete the whole cycle in one day, but you do need to take the next logical step. Focus on the task in front of you, not the entire mountain. Mastery comes through practice, not perfection. It answers the Chariot in reverse as well. That speaks to that internal misalignment. The page is saying, stop trying to control both horses at once. Instead, pick one small thing that you can commit to and do it with full presence. Alignment does not come from scattered effort, my friends. It comes from focused action. It also answers the Queen of Wands in reverse. When you think about it, right? Because the Queen of Wands is talking about our dimmed fire. Somewhere along the line, we've lost confidence. And the page is saying that our fire comes back through doing, not thinking. So start the creative project. Take the class. Practice the skill. Confidence is rebuilt through showing up as a humble student, not by forcing yourself to be the expert. The Page of Pentacles is our practical guidance card. Here's what we can actually do with that energy. On Monday, when we hit the wall, Page is saying when we hit it, don't try to push through it. Study it. What's it teaching us? What skills do we need to learn? What foundation needs to be built first? It's inviting us to be the student of our own obstacles. On Tuesday, when Mercury and Uranus give you that breakthrough, write it down and make it practical. Just don't have the revelation, but actually translate it into one small action you can take. Revolutionary ideas need grounded implementation. On Wednesday, when Mercury and Neptune make that trine, that's when you're going to receive the vision. And that's beautiful. But now we have to think about what is the next first tangible step. We don't want to get lost in the dream, right? Neptune in a shadow can actually do that. But we want to ask, what can I do today to honor this guidance? On Saturday, when Mars and Neptune make that exhaustive point, when we're tired and foggy, Page is asking us to return to the basics. Make breakfast. Go out for a walk. Do one small act of self-care. The page reminds us that spiritual surrender still requires you to tend to the physical vessel. So how can you practically work with this energy this week? Well, I would start something new this week, but start small. Make it achievable. Maybe it's one small financial or health goal you can track, or a 5-minute daily meditation practice, or a simple creative project with no pressure to finish it. Be the student, not the master. So ask for help or guidance from someone that's further along in this work than you are. Stop expecting yourself to know everything. Watch a YouTube video instead of trying to figure it out all by yourself. More importantly, embrace the attitude of the page that I'm learning. And I'm learning is a complete sentence. Focus on tangible progress. Not full-blown emotional transformation. Clean one drawer, not the whole house. Save $5, not your entire emergency fund. Write one paragraph, not the whole book. Have one honest conversation, not heal all of your relationships. You see what I'm saying? And then track your small wins. Keep a log of what you did, not what you didn't do, and build evidence that you are making progress, even when it feels slow. So what is this whole reading telling us? Well, the page is being our guide this week. It's telling us that we need to stop trying to transform overnight. We need to stop waiting for perfect clarity. Take that imperfect action and learn as you go. Stop forcing the big completion. Focus on just today's task. And stop proving you're the expert. Embrace being the devoted student. And stop living in your head. Get into your body and the physical world. The page is earth energy, so it's practical, it's tangible, and it's real. This week isn't asking you to have this massive spiritual awakening, although Wednesday might give you one. It's asking you to translate your insights into grounded action. So here's your assignment for the week, following in the footsteps of the Page of Pentacles. On Wednesday, I'd like you to do this. I'd like you to receive the download, however that may come. It may come in meditation, it can come while journaling, it can come while you're in the shower, or while you're just spending some quiet time with yourself. And then immediately ask yourself, what is one small practical action I can take this week to honor this guidance? And then I want you to do the thing before the week ends. Then track it. I want you to witness yourself following through. The Page's promise is that these small grounded actions will do more to shift your energy than any amount of spiritual seeking, emotional processing, or mental analyzing. You don't manifest through magic alone. You manifest through showing up in the physical world with devotion, curiosity, and small, consistent steps. The Page of Pentacles just gave us a permission slip to stop trying so hard and gently move forward, one humble, practical step at a time. That's how you cross the threshold. That's how you come home to yourself. And that's how the cycle completes. Not through force, through devotion to the small, sacred work of being a beginner again.